Okay, I think we'll start. Uh, Thank you very much for the World Green Infrastructure Network for asking the European Federation of Green Roof and Wall Associations to present um, some information about what's going on in Europe, and hopefully the National Association members from Norway, Germany, France, Poland, Portugal, and Spain will show some of the exciting things that are going on in their country. But first of all, about the European Federation, it was founded about 25 years ago by Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. It's a German-speaking, originally a German-speaking federation, and that's why EFB. I daren't say it in German because Fiona might tell me off. But that's why EFB is. It doesn't quite translate so well into English, but it's the European Federation of Green Roof and Wall Associations, and you can see behind me all our members across Europe. And what we're going to do is do a series of questions about what my national associations and federation are about and how the Commission can help them to do what they want to do. And I'd just like to introduce you to, I've got Marta Weber-Siwirska, who's president of the Polish Green Roof Association, David Brasfield, who's chairperson for the Norwegian Association for Green Infrastructure, and he's part of the Scandinavian Green Infrastructure Network, which is a member of the European Federation. I've got Julian Briz, who's president of the Spanish Society for Promotion of Nature in Urban and Rural Areas, Fiona Wolff, project manager for BUGG. I have to do the abbreviation there because I'll probably slip up, and Paulo from who's the president of the Association Nacional de Coberturas Verdes, and Sophie Rousset, who's from EGID, which is our French association. So I'll start off, if I may, with the first question, which I will slowly go around Europe. First of all, I'm going to ask you, could you share some projects, green roof and wall projects in your country? And also, which is really, really important, is, how is your market? Is it a mature market, or is it one that's not really established as a mainstream one? Because there's different sizes of markets across Europe. So if I could go to Fiona Wolff from the BUGG first. Fiona, could you share some projects?
Yes, I thank you for that question, Dusty. I really would like to start with the market and then talk about some projects. First of all, the green roof market in Germany is very well established and has annual growth rate is growing annually about 7%. Germany has a long green roof tradition. Green roofs have been professionally installed since the early 70s. The green market the green market is very well established, and for more than 40 years, green roofs have been implemented. And I'm sorry. At the beginning, many green roofs in Germany were installed as intensive green roofs. That changed during the last decade, and now most of the green roofs that are installed are extensive green roofs. About facade greening, until a few years ago, facade greening was almost exclusively the traditional way, ground-based facade greening. But now, since there are systems for living walls, it's beginning to grow, and and that developed a large number of system suppliers that are now not only doing facade greening, but also doing facade greening, but some are specialized in facade greening. And soil-bound facades are mostly built in on regulations, and living walls are mostly installed when clients want that. In terms of indoor greening, it has developed in the same way when wall greening or living walls started to develop. Indoor greening was developing also. In Germany, we do a survey every year to the and ask the market about how it's going. And the German Association does this since 2008, and the book continues that since 2018. And we could conduct that to 2019 about 1.2 million square meters of green roof were built in Germany intensively, and extensively around 6 million square meters. However, the total area added in Germany on roofs that were built is about 80 million square meters, but the roofs that are greened are only about 9% of that, so 7 million square meters. So there's a lot of potential roofs that can be greened in the future. Yes, and now I have some projects I would like to talk about because I don't have a presentation, and because it's a little bit difficult to decide for some projects, because we have a lot of very interesting and very beautiful projects. We have projects from garages about 20 square meters up to warehouses with 70,000 square meters of green roof. So there's a very high variety of green roofs that are implemented, but we have some honorable mentions. And that is the old eco settlement in Düsseldorf and Hannover. They were built in the 80s and are still a very popular residential area. The 100 Wasserhäuser in Darmstadt und Essen, and a roof of an industrial site in Munich. Maybe you have seen that somewhere, because there's a herd of sheep on top and they feel so well and so good on that roof. They even had some little sheep. And one of the latest projects is the Köbogen in Düsseldorf. Maybe you've heard of that or seen that. It's a very futuristic building. And in many cities like Freiburg or Stuttgart or Hamburg, there are currently a lot of high-rise buildings that are planned with a green facade. That's my...
Could I just ask you, it's quite developed. There was a lot of talk this morning about biosolar roofs, and solar green roof processes is pretty advanced in Germany, isn't it? You do install a lot of solar green roofs, don't you?
Yes. At the moment, there's a little, so it's not that common in Germany that you implement both. In the heads of the people, it's mostly, do I implement solar or do I implement green? But you can combine it. And that's the thing we and some other people try to bring in more in the market, that that solar and green is combinable. Great.
Thanks very much, Fiona. We'll probably come back when we've gone around everybody to get a discussion about the markets and what's going on. So I'd like to hand over to Sophie from Antiver to tell us what's going on in France.
What about France? Let me just share a slide, because then to show up the market, it's easier to have something which is shown. So I will just share my screen with you. Okay, what I like just to just go back a little bit in the history. If I have to express what is the French market today, let's say that it is in a way mature, but I'd like it not to be totally matured in order to be developed. Why? Because in France, we were when Fiona just gave us her figures, I like in France to be comparable, because influence is coming from Germany, certainly. Let's say that the first step will be Le Corbusier, who is a very well-known architect, maybe not only in France, but internationally. And with him, really in France, flat roof and its végétalisation, but more as a garden than extensive or semi-intensive. developed, and in the mind of people, flat roofs became something attractive on an architecture basis. But then the influence coming from Germany 30 years ago is about how to vegetalize these flat roofs and developing extensive and semi-intensive vegetalism. That is to say that in France, we have around 30 years experience of vegetalization of the roofs, and we can, when you see this chart just under the slide here, you can see that we have a really exponential development between, let's say, 2007 to 2011, but then there is a very flat, the curve is very flat. And then I'd like to, comparing with Fiona, with Germany, that this line can go up again. This very strong growth between 2003, or let's say 2007 and 2011 is explained suddenly because of the, let's say, the fact that the techniques were quite well handled, and that vegetalize the roofs can be a good opportunity, especially for white surface. Today, we assume that the market is, let's say, as mature, even if we'd like it to as an association, as a professional association, to be developed again, but we assess the market as around 1.5 million square meters per year, and of course, in comparison, for instance, with Germany, it's sure for us that there is a lot of opportunity, even if from Germany's point of view, there is still many opportunities to develop again. That is to say that today we have said that 10 million square meters are vegetalized today in France, but of course it would be a lot more. The repartition between what is from both new building construction and renovation, refurbishment, is there is a very big discrepancy between the two, because new building construction represent for vegetalization 90% of the market, while for renovation you have just 10%. So then there is certainly something to be developed there. And regarding the repartition between public and private order, you have 75% of 3/4 for coming from public order and the rest from private. So again, and even if I'm quite brief, there are a lot to do again. However, as Fiona, I'd like to share you some good example, but I won't talk. Of course, I would present them to you, but then I'd like to share pictures with you just as illustration of what can be done and what have been done in France. Again, it's very subjective, as just some brief examples which are quite nice or interesting or innovative. That one is a very famous one, because it's just over the railways of Gare Montparnasse and Tour Montparnasse in Paris, and it's a public garden, and now it's quite old as a reference, and it's a public garden, so it's very interesting to see what can be done when there is a real ambition regarding greening the buildings. And of course, you can imagine the same thing without garden; it won't be at all the same thing. Here is in the south of France, and what is interesting here is just combination of various way of vegetalization, combining with PV, with photovoltaic, and it's in the south of France, and we know that sometimes one of the kind of constraints there is regarding vegetalization of building is the climate, and here is an illustration of it's possible to make vegetalization in some Mediterranean area. A nice example of vegetable garden, it's on the Bastille Opera in Paris, and it's a very nice realization because it has been done or at the moment of building the opera, but afterwards, that is to say, that is a kind of refurbishment. And it's a very interesting project, not only to have vegetalized after the construction this garden, but as well to have a vegetable garden. Here is just to show how flowered can be the vegetalization of building. Here it's quite interesting and very French, if I can say, French realization, because it's what's called a chai, that is to say where the wine is done, and it's very near the wine spray, and you can see how it is integrated both in the landscape and in the wine spirit. It's in Burgundy in France. This one is just to show an example of a very wide surface, which is vegetalized, as a good illustration when you see the difference between this roof, this green roof, and the ones that are behind. That's just a very good image of the difference, and of course the feeling you have between the two realizations. This one is interesting as well because you have a combination of different kind of vegetalizations and how you can mix an architecture which is quite innovative and innovation as well in vegetalization and the plants used to green this building and to integrate it in the surroundings. Here it is in Paris, just to have a vegetalized breath in Paris, and again with a very interesting combination of the design and how the vegetalization can be implemented and articulate in this design. This one is undergoing, and I think it's almost finished, is the revitalization of Maison de la Radio in Paris. It is a very big building, again, with a very special architecture done in the 60s. And in the 60s, it wasn't at all vegetalized, but in the frame of the refurbishment of the whole building, the decision has been made to vegetalize what you see at the first floor, where all the building is looking at, and not only because of aesthetics, but as well in order to respond to two requirements. First, regarding rain management, and the other one is regarding climate mitigation. Some other examples of spring on the roofs again. And not to forget them, the facade in France is a quite new, let's say quite new market. Let's say that the history is around 15 years, and of course these kind of examples are very well known because it is done by Patrick Blanc with the Chirac Museum Quai Branly in Paris, and another example in Paris, Aboukir Street, which is one of the first techniques developed regarding facades in France. But you have other examples here and there on very different kind of buildings. And even if the market is not so wide, of course, it's not comparable with the roofs. However, the facades are a quite interesting way of vegetalize the cities. That's all for me. Thank you. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Dusty, you're muted.
Yeah.
So I was just saying that, you know, when I walk around Paris, I'm always surprised how many green walls there actually are, because there is quite a few in Paris, and it's always quite nice to see that. So I'm now going to go to Poland and ask Marta to tell us about what's going on with the market in Poland and show us some wonderful projects, because I know there's some pretty excellent ones in Warszawa.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Dusty. Okay, green roofs and walls market is still developing in Poland. These installations are not so common as in Western Europe, but they are not considered they are not considered a novelty anymore. So every year we have more and more projects establishing both green roofs and the living wall. Moreover, this industry, this branch has not been affected by the coronavirus pandemic crisis. Contractors even talk about the growing interest in a green roofs establishing, especially in a private sector. The oldest the oldest, maybe let's say, the written information about the old green roofs which were in Poland tells us that before the Second World War we have already some examples in Warsaw in a multi-flat building. But unfortunately, this building didn't survive the war disaster. So as you know, the Warsaw was destroyed in 90%, and this building as well. But then after the Second World War, we have a long break of such an installation. And I think that some projects, and I know that some projects start to be established at in 70 years of the last century, and then step by step we have more and more this installation, maybe not from 70 years, but the faster movement starts in 1990s years. So and at the beginning, and even 5 years ago, I would say that we have 80% of intensive green roof and 20% of extensive green roof. Now, last year, the situation is a little bit changed, and we can say that more or less, I don't have the exact data, but we can say that today we have about 60% of the intensive green roofs in a total number of all green roofs, and 40% of intensive green roofs. And skipping to the good example, I would like to share my screen with you and show you some examples, because that I choose for today. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yep, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. So in my opinion, good examples of green roofs, they are those that are open for the public, because then people can go there, then can enjoy this project and maybe repeat it in their town, their neighborhood, etc. So first project, this is Warsaw University Library. It was first green roof that was open for the public as a kind of park. So we have in here a rain garden, as you can see on the right hand side, and these green roofs have several levels of the greenery, and two upper levels are divided to different parts, named by color. So we have a golden garden that you can see on the left hand side because of the color of the leaves, of the flowers of plants. And then we have a blue garden, red garden, and silver garden. And this is again, this is the same roof, so but from the other perspective, the view. The other in this on the map of Poland that you can see on the right hand upper corner, you can see the star. This star will be moved when we will change the location of this example. So the stars show the location of the of the object. So we are staying in Warsaw. This is the example of a living wall, which was established in 2013. This is the building of Foundation for Polish Science. And the building is interesting because the facade has three different facing. So there are quite different conditions for the plants, but as you can see, the greenery is very dense. And yes, it was said on a previous session that people came in here, take a picture of and with this living wall. And another building, another green roof is in Podlasie, in Białystok. This is the Podlaska Opera and Philharmonic. And this green roof is also treated as a park when you can visit. The upper part is not open for whole year, for whole day. It is closed for night, but during the day you can climb by these stairs and see this sculpture that you can see on the left hand side of this picture. Another example is from Gdańsk. This is the museum, the Solidarity Center in Gdańsk. The building has have to appear like a ship, like an old ship. And in this case, we have a natural meadow that everybody who came to the Solidarity Center in Gdańsk can enjoy, can spend some times in here looking for the flower, for the meadow on the rooftop. And this is the example of living wall in Wrocław at the municipality building. This is also the space when everybody can come. As you can see, in a back view, there is a tram stop, and this is, in fact, this is a kind of passage. So you can came in here whenever you want, and there is also the entrance to the some municipalities offices. And another example, this is Wrocławia Shopping Center, also in Wrocław. We have in here intensive green roofs, which is open for all customers of this shopping center. But in the garage of this shopping center, there is also international and national bus station. So the passengers can also use this space when waiting for a bus or changing the bus. Besides that, this shopping center has quite a lot of examples of living walls. So we have external living wall in panel system, and internal with, as you can see in here, this is a pocket system and a lot of artificial they are artificial, so in fact they are not live alive, but they are from moss, stabilized moss, so this moss was alive in the past. And the last example is from Katowice. This is a huge area, about 3,000 square meters of grassland, let's say, of greenery, covering the International Congress Center, and some of the part of this roof are used for some events. As you can see in here, people are allowed to come to this place and enjoy this space. So I know that we don't have a lot of time, so I choose just those examples to give you the impression what we have in Poland.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Marta. And if I could stay in the north and go to David Brasfield from the Norwegian Green Infrastructure Association. David?
Yeah, okay, thanks for letting me be here and share what we're doing here in Norway. First of all, Norway actually has probably one of the oldest green roof traditions in the world. They have been making green roofs here for thousands of years in the vernacular architecture. But in spite of that, I have to say that as far as urban green roofs go, we are lagging behind Denmark and Sweden, perhaps at about the same level of market development as Finland. But anyway, our urban market didn't really get started until 2006. So we're at a bit of an earlier stage on that bell curve that Sophie showed us in the market growth that starts rather on a steep slope and then starts to even off afterwards. So we are still enjoying very significant market growth, and that actually makes challenges for our suppliers who have to deal with rapid building up of their capacity to deliver. So as the others have mentioned, we also had a market beginning with a lot of extensive roofs, but we see that we're getting past that. I would say that the majority of roofs are still extensive roofs, as Marta said, but we're seeing a number of more exciting intensive roofs that are delivering a number of ecosystem services that are doing fun things with increased stormwater capacity, biodiversity, recreational and private outdoor areas, etc. And by the way, with the private and outdoor areas, one really interesting development here is a particular property developer who has found out how to monetize those green surfaces to sell those along with apartments, the same way that parking spaces often are sold with new housing units. So, and another thing that we're seeing more of is projects where the hydrological systems are differentiated, where you have some aspects happening on a roof level, and then other areas resembling wetlands on lower levels. So we're doing a mimicking of the differentiation of hydrological aspects that you find in nature. So now I'll just share my screen, hopefully. Do you see that?
Yep, you see that, David?
Yeah, okay. Trying to go to full screen there. So just a few projects, not so much from here in Norway. And we're basically here to talk about green roofs and walls, but I just wanted to give a nod to the rest of green infrastructure, which I still believe is very important. One thing we're doing here in Oslo is a lot of opening of culverted streams. We are now at about 5.3 kilometers of streams opened in Oslo. And then we have this new project that was just completed last year. It is a ice skating arena. This is a moss roof, and it is one of the very first moss roofs built in Norway, and also one of the largest green roofs built in our city recently. And moss is an intriguing and interesting form of vegetation for us here, and we're quite excited to see this, and it is spectacular to look at. So it's a good selling point for green infrastructure here. And of course, it has its ecosystem services. Ice halls, of course, need to stay cool, and the roof is contributing to that. So Then we have this wonderful project that is actually being built this year. It will be completed this fall. So welcome to Norway to come and visit this project in September or October. This is a biosolar project where they have built a furniture factory out in the forest. They have made wonderful attempts to not disrupt more native vegetation than is absolutely necessary. They scraped up the soil and redeposited it on the roof, and then they're using local vegetation to try and reestablish the local biotopes that were already there. So that's a really wonderful place-made approach to substrates and vegetation, which differs quite a lot from a lot of the other more industrialized systems of green roofs that we're seeing here in Norway. The project is also striving for BREEAM outstanding, which is quite amazing. So that's that project. And then the other one, and the last one that I wanted to show you, that's this, it's a film and culture building here in Oslo. And this building, it doesn't look very exciting, actually, but there's a lot of innovation in this. One thing they have done is put a stormwater reservoir at the roof level. So this roof will hold up to 100 millimeters of rain at a time, and then gradually let go of that over time so that it doesn't load the stormwater system here. The other thing is they have reestablished a local biotope in the Oslo area. We have these wonderful lime-rich biotopes, especially on the islands in the Oslo fjord. So they have reestablished this biotope and made a lot of, they have done a very good job with reestablishing the species that are special and preserved there. So then, yeah, that's basically what I just said there, the same. Then just a very short mention. This isn't Norway, but in Scandinavia, we have the Scandinavian Green Roof Institute, which is celebrating 20 years of existence this year. And they have a great handbook that for green roofs that they just revised. I can make my presentation available later if anybody wants to get those links. And there's a Green Roof Prize that they give out. And then the other thing that is quite exciting is now, instead of just talking about green roofs and walls, we're also looking critically at the sustainability of these projects. So there are projects both in Malmö and Oslo that are looking at the climate neutrality possibilities in green roofs, what they're delivering of climate reductions and what the climate loading is in embodied materials and production and transport, etc. So these are, it's an exciting growth in our knowledge base that are coming out of these things. That's pretty much what I had about this.
Thanks, David. I think later on we might get into this carbon neutrality thing, because I think this is an interesting area for the green roof, green wall industry in terms of carbon neutrality. So we're going to head down south and we're going to go to Spain now. If Julian from ProNature would like to give us your brief presentation, Julian.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll try to summarize and to say that in Spain, we might differentiate 3 periods in the evolution of the green infrastructure market. One is the traditional period, which lasts until the middle of the last century. And that is the traditional period. We have the main goals were food production, ornamental. In summary, we have from the Middle Age, where we have the patios, Andalusian patios, where people used to have the green roof, the high intensive in hand labor and ornamental. That was our first traditional period. Second period that we call in some way is the Renaissance period. This is a period with the last half, the second half of the last century, when we changed the way the focus of green roof and green wall. For the first time, we have the introduction of academic in some ways. We were very lucky because we have the Humboldt University from Berlin. We came to Madrid and we started with a new experience creating and starting the academic and entrepreneur. We started with the organization, and by that time we have some examples that I will show one of them that were always private initiative. That is individual or private initiative started with that. And the third period is we may call is in the 21st century that we are now, is the consolidation and the takeoff. I mean, we are now a mature market. We have the potential because we have the ingredient, we have the room, the place to work. We have also the people, we have the technology. Perhaps we need a little bit more on the organization because we are changing from individual project to platforms. And we are also working with a research project in some way. And for the first time here, city halls are becoming more and more involved. In some of the significant Spanish cities, they started working with the green roof for special events. For instance, we had Barcelona with the Olympic game, with experience. We have Zaragoza and Sevilla with international fairs. We have also Vitoria has been nominated a green city. So always were special events would push for the green market. At this moment, we just try to start and to move, but still we need to learn a lot. And just to summarize, I will show you just 3-4 examples of the green roof and green wall. So just first, I will show you this green and blue infrastructure. This is Madrid Rio, we call. This is a green roof that covers a highway system nearby in Madrid. It was inaugurated in 2015. It's a conversion highway in 10 kilometers and a park of 120 hectares and integrate the Manzanares River. You can see from here, that's because we call green and blue, and integrate the river with the Madrid center. And that is also has a universal access to a surface of 1.2 million square meters and to a cultural center we call Matadero. And that is this cultural center. We are discussing now topics about biodiversity and try to involve people. So this is a sustainable environment benefit and water management. This project was displayed at Shanghai World Expo as urban best practice. And that is here in Madrid. The second one is a project we call Madrid Nuevo Norte, New North project. It's a green roof covering the actual railway station. It's one of the largest urban transformation in Europe that we have at the moment. We may think we have 3.2 million square meters with building, consumer home, parks, and offices. 76% is for public use. And the construction will last for 25 years. So we are just at the beginning, no? And have 3 towers that will allow us 133,000 people workplace and 10,000 houses. And the 10,000 houses are supposed to have green roof and green wall. Integrate green spaces and commercial activities, has a bioclimatic design with efficient water management. In fact, we have some European projects working in this area, especially I think the project from Holland, and for sure adopt the 2030 agenda and the 12 Sustainable Development Goals. So this is a start project, I would say, here in Madrid and Spain. And here we have, in the second period, we have the Santander Financial City. It has 130,000 square meters. It is a green roof and golf. We have some orchards nearby, orchard for the employees. And we have it's a very long story because it's a bank, it's a private bank, it's the central city. And it was interesting in the way that the president of the bank asked the architect that the garden has to follow the color of a famous painter. So they had to have the plants according with the color of the painting. And the plants change during the year. So they had to accomplish, his headquarters, the office is here, so he can see the different colors in all the green roof. So it was a private, a personal wish of the banker to have this green roof with a combination of colors. And that's we have orchard and all detail, but it's the biggest one is 120,000 square meters. And now just two more examples. This is I'll show you here the green and blue wall at low cost. I say low cost because it was a construction. It's a hotel. It's a hotel. It's in the downtown in Madrid. And the owners saw that they rebuild the building. And someone told him, why don't we have a waterfall? And it was a record Guinness by some time, I don't know at this moment. But it has an area 1,000 square meters, the Santo Domingo Hotel, a waterfall that we have here, just the wall, but during summertime, it's a waterfall 20 meters high. The building has 26 meters, that means at 6th level. And in the hotel, if your room has the side inside here, the cost is about twice at the regular room. So this is a privilege to have your room with windows looking at this and it's a mixture of several plants, bush, aromatic, conifer, and you also have this also for ornithologists because there are different birds just located here. They come and stay here. You can listen the singing of the birds, and this is one of the special attractions, And this. Now, perhaps one of the advantages is a low maintenance with a drip irrigation. So it's very easy to move. This is not a traditional, it has the traditional system for all the flowers. You can take from inside the hotel, you can move, and this is very easy to handle, And in the opposite, we have, this is the last example I want to show you. This is the Caixa Forum. It's a green wall hotel located in Castellana. This is a Patrick Blanc work. That's it for the, our colleague Patrick Blanc is one of these, and that is a big combination of, and that is part of the dependency of the Caixa Forum, where we have meetings. We had meetings here, and this is the show. And that is just some of the samples that we have here. The old samples in some ways and the new systems. That's it.
Thank you very much, Julian. And obviously, there's a lot of green roofs down in Cordoba and in Andalusia from way back when the Arabs built a lot of green roofs. I'm just going to quickly hand over to Paulo to tell us about what's going on in Portugal.
Thank you, Dusty, and thank you all for those amazing presentations and very good examples around Europe. I will do a little bit different approach on this issue. I think the panel asked us to have a view from across Europe, and our view from Portugal, I would like to share with you. So I think from the morning sessions, we all agree that policy making is the change to the key to implement green infrastructure, mainly green roofs and green walls in our cities. So my question is about mature markets. What is a mature market? In the perspective of a company, it's a good market with very big numbers. In the perspective of a policy making, is a market prepared to receive and prepared to deliver these technologies to the buildings. So I think these two perspectives are very important, but mainly, in my point of view, in the Portuguese perspective, I think we must be all very happy and very glad to have this amazing network in the European Federation and also in WGIN, because it is clear for all that we have technical teams, we have national associations, we have European federations, we have world federations. We are really prepared to deliver green on the buildings. And so this is, in my point of view, the most important thing is that we are really more than prepared to deliver the green on the buildings in an European level. Obviously, looking at the perspective of the companies, there are amazing markets like Germany, amazing markets like France, and developing markets as Portugal and other countries. But yes, we also do green roofs for a long time, not as long as the Norwegian colleagues, but we have green roofs with more than 100 years old. So it's something not so new for Portugal, mainly intensive ones. And we are doing in new buildings, in new public buildings, a lot of green roofs in Portugal. So it's a market in the perspective of the companies that is completely growing, but it's a country of 12 million inhabitants, so it's our size, the size of the country. But I think the main perspective, and just to finish, I will share with you a link for our website in www.greenroofs.pt, and you will have an interactive map where you can find lots of green roofs and green walls in Portugal, and also a map of policies around the world that I really invite you to visit, because I think it's something very unique in Europe. And so, just to finish, Dusty, I think we have a metro market in Portugal because we have research groups working on the issue, we have municipalities working on the issue, and we have very good companies ready to make it, and already making very good and nice projects in Portugal. So I think we also have a mature market. Thank you, Dustin.
Thanks, Paulo. That's really good, because you know, it's how we view our market, and you put a different perspective on it. And I just want to highlight from the federation's point of view, our Austrian federation has done this Austrian Green Market Report. This is one of the most thorough analysis of a country's market. And we're hoping that all our national members, and you can wave if you're on the way, but all our national members will be actually producing a market report, so that we can produce a European market report, which, you know, is specifically targeted to the Commission, because we do have industries that are ready to deliver. We have the technologies, and there'll be a slide at the end. You know, Europe has most of the leading green roof companies in the world, and are exporting. So, you know, we need the Commission to realise that we have a really good industry within Europe. And, you know, certainly I don't really want you to do presentations on this next bit, if I can help you, because we haven't got a lot of time. But, you know, in my experience from my situation, and, you know, I helped to write a policy in London, which got green roofs growing at 17% a year in London, and that was in 2008. So to me, policy has always been key to getting green roofs to happen. So I just wanted to get your views from your countries, what policies, what regulations. I know there's some stuff about stormwater, I think, Sophie, in Hot Seine, which is helping drive green roofs. So, you know, perhaps you can tell us what's going on for us. And you made a national law as well, didn't you, for solar or green roofs, 2016, I think that was. So over to you, Sophie. What's driving it? Do you need more policies? Are there good policies? You're muted, Sophie. You're muted.
Unmute. Yeah, I don't know whether it's really good, but for sure it's they are still existing, which is good. Let's say that we have a really story in France, not very old, but quite recent. However, it makes things change a bit. From my point of view, the point of view of Delegate is not enough. We'd like more, a lot of more. But however, let's say that historically, and maybe it could be an inspiration for other national markets, we had in 2019 a law which name is Énergie Climat, which asks for commercial buildings till they have 1,000 square meters, the obligation to get either green roofs or I would have to say energy, let's say sustainable energy production systems, not only photovoltaic, it's just energy production system, but sustainable as it is said. That is to say that can be the combination in biosolar roofs, of course. And it was a very important big step for us. But actually, it's really something which is currently under the hands of the Parliament, since this law is currently reviewed by the Parliament, Assemblée Nationale and then Sénat and Assemblée Nationale in France, and the new law will have the name of Climate and Resilience Law, and the first step has been Assemblée Nationale, and today it's under debate, and it should have been eventually voted by this summer. And the two ideas are, first, it won't be only commercial buildings, but as well the buildings for just working, so whatever business buildings as a whole. And the second aspect is that it won't be only for 1,000 square meters, but 500 square meters for commercial buildings and 1,000 square meters for business buildings. That is to say, and then the consequence is the same: green roofs and or sustainable energy production systems. And really, this kind of laws is really helpful. Maybe not enough, because then we'd like to see the difference in the figures of the markets, but we hope that in maybe 1 or 2 years we should see something different. And then as well, and it was interesting this morning to have this presentation of the woman in relation to photovoltaic business, because I think that the combination of both green roofs and photovoltaic should be very interesting. But I said at the beginning that maybe it's not enough. In France, I don't know exactly how it is in the other countries, but in France, of course, there is national laws, and since it is mandatory, you have to do. But then there are all the time some ways to do something else, to explain why it's not possible to implement this kind of obligation. So then the other aspect which is important to be taken into account is the local rules, it is to say the municipality level. And we can see in France a real change of view because of change of color of municipalities. They are greener. We had some local elections 1 year ago, and or 2 years ago, sorry, and the municipalities that changed, and the main ones, the most important towns are some of them change of political color. And what's the consequence is that there is really the volunteer to have a real greener policy as a whole. And of course, greening buildings is part of this policy. And but maybe that's not only a question of political aspects. That is to say that it's not only the Greens, so-called Greens position, but in France, really, there is more and more let's say, consciousness position in order to really find a way or find ways for climate mitigation, for rain management, and because there is as well a very strong rules regarding the soils in France, which is zero artificialization. Sorry for the pronunciation. That is to say that for the towns is really to ask questions to themselves: how can we handle this zero artificialization without greening buildings, for instance? So we have to green buildings, and concretely there is really a lot of initiatives in this way. However, on a business point of view, we'd like to see it more in the daily business, but maybe it's, I hope and we hope that it's of months, 6 months, 1 year, 1 year and a half, in order to see all these streams to develop. To end with, I have as well to just, and of course it's not exactly policy, but it's very important for us to articulate this with the standards. And Adibet worked with all the professionals in order to set up standards in order to ensure the quality and the sustainability of green roofs. And we'd like to do the same thing for facades, because then it's very important to be successful as well by implementing green roofs, not only to have good realization at a given time, but as well in the future to have beautiful realization that in projects that you can take benefits all over the years.
Thanks very much, Sophie. Which actually codes of practice standards. A lot of our associations have them. Actually, the UK's new standard will be launched on June the 6th on World Green Roof Day. But that hands me really nicely over to Fiona, because actually it's quite complex how you can do green roofs through policy in Germany. I think there's 26 different ways, isn't there? But obviously Germany is the mother of all green roof codes of practice, which is the FLL, which we all know so well. So I'll hand over to you, Fiona, to mention a little bit about policy in Germany, because I know there's lots of levels to it.
Yes, you're right. There's a lot of levels to that. I really want to line up the main things, just a few things I want to say. So it's the FLL guidelines for roof and facade greening. That's the main thing. Then there's the flat roof guideline. Then there are various DIN standards for different topics, like fire protection, drainage, everything, DIN standards. And then of course the building plans and design guidelines on the municipality level. And then I go over to the municipality level. There are some instruments in Germany where you can support the building greening thing on buildings, especially with stipulations in development plans and B plans, municipality bylaws and local regulations, support programs like with financial subsidies, eco points, or the reduction of wastewater fee. So there's a lot of where you can support people with green roofs. And I just want to point out one project we in Germany are currently doing, and it's the city dialogue. And we put together different municipalities that they can exchange with each other, because some of them have already implemented various instruments in their own municipality, and so they can exchange with municipalities that want to implement them and help with the implementation of green roofs in their city and city surroundings. And we, as the book, provide them a platform, and there they can connect with each other and exchange with each other and learn from each other. And I think that's a very good thing that we should all learn from each other. Yeah.
No, I think that's a brilliant point, actually, because I remember a couple of the speakers earlier this morning talking about getting down to ground level, to neighbourhood scale and local authority scale, and sharing information between local authorities is a really good thing. I'm now going to go up to David in Norway. I mean, is there much at a policy level in Norway at the moment, David?
Well, we have what I would call a patchwork of policies. Since green infrastructure is multifunctional, then of course there are a number of different sector policies that touch on green infrastructure. But we, excuse me, we still don't have a comprehensive green roofs and walls policy in Oslo, even though we started on that process in 2013. So that tells that there are some barriers and challenges to dedicated green roof and wall policies. And actually, I think we should have a discussion here, not just about what is best practice with policy in the, like in Germany or other places that are leading the way, but also a discussion about how we can support best practice policy dissemination. And actually, Dusty, your work with the policy guide for the Mayor of London, that's a good example. That's doing policy support groundwork, and then the boroughs come on board later when they have had good support for their individual policies. So I agree very much with Fiona that we need to ramp up the level of activity where we are sharing policy experiences between cities and also internationally. And we have some great experiences and results with exactly that. You remember, Dusty, when you were here in Norway in 2006, it was only 6 months after you went back that we had some nice zoning requirements for green roofs on the city development area that I showed you in the last slide of my presentation. So those things come because of high quality international contact and exchange. We had a similar experience when we invited the World Green Infrastructure Network to a policy workshop here in Oslo in 2019, where we also had some very wonderful policy presentations from, among others, Stephen Peck and Paulo, Palha, who's with us here, that really did a good job of convincing local politicians that policy is also possible here in Norway.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting that, David, thanks, 2006, I do remember it. It hadn't snowed, and then when I arrived, it snowed, and everybody in Norway was happy, if you remember. But, you know, the thing about sharing, what sometimes concerns me is I go to maybe like Romania or Bulgaria, and they say, oh, well, you know, we don't have all the regulations, we don't have the codes of practice. And, you know, we do have the codes of practice. We have codes of practice in Italy, we have codes of practice now in Portugal. So we have codes of practice that can support other countries taking things forward. Certainly the UK code of practice, I was talking to an Irish radio station the other day, that in Southern Ireland, they can use our code of practice because it fits their market. But I'm just going to quickly go over to Marta. Is there anything happening at policy level in Poland, specifically for green roofs and green walls?
Okay, yes, David, yes, Dusty, sorry. We don't have the national law, but we can, we have some support, you know, on 3 different levels. So we can say about the city, about the region, and about the national some regulations. So when we say about the city, there are that could be some resolution, like for example, Wrocław, it was the first city which has the resolution and about the green roof and wall. So that was, of course, for citizens, and this resolution is still valid, but we are in contact. In fact, we refresh the contact with the municipality workers to develop this between the others thing, to develop this resolution for the next years, to make them its resolution will works better. So this resolution is about the tax tax reduction. But in other cities, we have the example of Dąbrowa Górnicza is in the Upper Silesia, and they established a resolution last year, which covered the maximum of 50% of the cost of the material that were used for building a green roof. And this is, yes, there is a maximum cost, of course, that couldn't be crossed. But another program we have, it's not my region, in fact, unfortunately, but there is a program named Blue and Green Infrastructure for Wielkopolska region. And this program is established for the years 2021 to 2027, and is dedicated to the organization and NGOs, municipalities, allotment gardens, and other institutions. And application must relate to the task in a field of the protection of environment, and the level of co-financial, is up to, thank you, Desti.
Don't worry.
Is up to 80%, depend of the project. And we have one national program, Moja Woda, that we can translate as My Water. It's about the water retention. And this program is valid from last year, 2020 to 2024. And last year, there was added information that green roofs could be also considered, and people can apply for some financial support from the government. And in fact, I regard this program as a success of Polish Green Roof Association, because this information that green roofs can be also considered as something that can collect rainwater. This is the result of our petition, of our association. So yes, that's something that we are proud of. And we have another national regulation that says that every project have to take into account the size of the biologically active area in relation to the land that can be built up. And in these areas, they are mentioned mainly natural soil that that allows to grow the plants, but also green roofs, but they are calculated on 50%. So when we have 1 square meter of green roof, then in the project there is calculated like a half of a square meter area. And this regulation, this is in fact obligation, has almost 20 years. So that can explain why we have so much intensive green roofs comparing to extensive, because all the developer, when they have to build building, parkings and access road, so they built underground garage and they cover them by green roofs. So then they have take a little bit more of the space, and of course on the top of the building they cover the top of the building by usually extensive, but not only extensive green roofs.
Thanks, Marta. It's interesting because just I can highlight the Czech Republic, because there's lots of incentives now in the Czech Republic. And also I want to go over to Paulo now, because I've worked with Paulo now for, oh God knows how many years. And I know you've done lots of work, Paulo, with your federation about talking to municipalities in Portugal and networking with municipalities in Portugal. And have you had much success in terms of driving that policy framework in Portugal?
Thank you, Dusty. Yeah, it's true that I think we are achieving some very important goals in Portugal. We work closely to some important municipalities and all the municipalities in Portugal that want to work with our association. And the good news is that in the program of our government, we already have green roofs and green walls on the strategy for energy transition and foster smart and sustainable cities. So this is something for the first time that in Portugal happens. And also in a national level, the government create a fund, environmental fund that people can apply, and they can have 70% of the funding of a green roof or a green wall up to 3,000 euros. So it's not too much, but it is something, and it's a beginning of something that I'm sure it will be bigger. In the municipality level, I will share with you on the chat a map that you can, it's an interactive map that you can find some cities and the strategies of these cities in Portugal. But we have, I think the good news is that many public buildings are being remodeled with green roofs and green walls, not because of a specific program. And also we have some municipalities with tax reductions if the green roof or green wall is installed on the building. And finally, I think we must look at the private sector, because the return on investment right now in Portugal, the investors are looking for the green as an important point to do marketing on their new buildings. Just to give you an example, in Porto, a building built in 1940 was remodeled, and they installed 100 square meters of green roof where there was no green space previously, and all the apartments were sold less one, and the only one that was not sold was the one that didn't have the view to the garden. So I think this is a nice image of what is also happening in the private sector in Portugal. The green is something that the investors look to earn money right now. So this gives a good opportunity for the municipality policy makers to go further ahead, because they also have the approval of the private sector, in my point of view. Just to finish, Dusty, the importance again of our federation, the European Federation, and also the World Green Infrastructure Network, because the work that all of us do in our own countries, the work that we do close to the municipalities, trying to find the best code of practice, trying to help in developing and designing programs, it's really amazing. So again, I think everything is prepared to the growth of this green inside our cities, and this is happening in Portugal for sure.
Thanks, Palha. There's two things there. Is certainly in London's a particular political system in the United Kingdom, and some of our major housing developers are selling properties saying come live in nature, and that's the property development market changing. And also we have something it's going to become legal soon, which is biodiversity net gain. And there's several major property companies are going, we're going to deliver biodiversity net gain before it's even law. And so I think the private sector is actually changing. They realize that the climate crisis, biodiversity crisis is important. And the other thing is on that, Paulo, and thanks for saying that, you know, when I did go to Brussels on the working group for green infrastructure and ecosystem services for the Federation, I did try and say to people, you know, the European Federation has got lots of knowledgeable people who've been doing this for many years, and we are a resource for the Commission to help move forward these processes. Now, Julian, I'm really conscious of the time. Could you give us a little 2 minutes of what's happening in Spain in terms of policy? I know Barcelona's got some kind of vegetation policy.
Yeah, just in a few words, I will tell you. Well,
yeah.
we talk about green infrastructure market is a very heterogeneous market. I mean, there are many segments according with the climate and the culture, and so that is one of the challenges. In Spain, at this moment, I would say the private initiative has been the more important, but city halls are coming. We do not have like a national law regarding green infrastructure, although we have a minister for climate change and environment that is going to, was supposed to work on this. However, if we look with the help of international institutions like EFB or WIGIN and in other countries, like benchmarking, what is going on and what is doing in other places. For instance, the potential about that. We work in the central city where there are more contaminated cities, but most of the time we are working in the surrounding of the city, green belt. But what the city, the only way we have is to work with roof and wall. And that's sometimes we have the opportunity. In Madrid, we have a snowstorm we call Filomena. So they have to restore now all the many buildings. And I say, well, why not to have the chance, the opportunity to have a green roof or a green wall? So we had to convince, and give incentive for that one. So we have also a measure, for instance, we promote solar panels. But what about if we combine solar panel with green roof? There's opportunity too. So we have to know the experience, positive experience, and take advantage of that. For sure, we have to simplify bureaucracy, give some advantage, not only money, money is always welcome, but sometimes with lower bureaucracy is much efficient. We have we call a democratization decision process. Some of the project in the city has been voted by the neighborhoods, with some experience in other cities. And another important thing is that people get involved and they see that this is their project. So the maintenance of the project, and this is also quite important. We have to give information about the example in other cities, and that is important. And for sure, we need a national standard quality system. We do not have it. So in some countries they have. So that will be very helpful also for us. And there are so many other things to do, but at this moment we are working, following. Some of the cities have the leadership in this market, but not the regional or the national government.
Thank you very much, Julian. So what I want to sort of tie up now is we've got sort of 7 minutes, and I obviously know that Sophie, Paulo, and Julian and David were listening earlier. I think Marta was listening earlier this morning. Key to today from the World Green Infrastructure Network is how Europe can support what we do. And I was very, very impressed about how much anybody knows. Me and Green Roofs know that biodiversity is my thing, and how much biodiversity was highlighted by nearly all the speakers, that actually the EU biodiversity strategy can be delivered through Green Roofs. So I just wanted to get a few of you's views, because I've got about 6 minutes. Well, I've got about 5 minutes to do that because I've got to do a wrap up. So, Sophie, what was the one key thing you got out of this morning? One key thing.
Yeah. Let's say three keys. I don't know whether they are very efficient or not, but yes, by hearing what was told this morning, we were thinking that first of all, I think that Europe maybe is quite distant. It depends, but however, we believe that Europe can give the frame to stimulate countries to implement a voluntarist policy. I think that it is really something which has to be based on something which is voluntarist, because if not, it won't work. As well, Europe can share, with Europe, but can share the best practices coming from the most advanced countries, what we do a bit this afternoon, and then to continue fueling ideas together in order to share good practices, because then when we have regularly some meetings with députés, that is politics in France, for instance, and really when we share best practices in Europe today, it's really something that they hear attentively. And then the third axis would be because the last panel handled by Paulo was about financing. I think that building a kind of fund to support projects, but at the end of the day, because even if there are more and more business models proving that you can have a return on investment, however, it's still quite difficult to convince, especially for the private holder, to convince the return on investment, because it is an investment, definitely, both for the installation and for the maintenance. So then it has to be proved and maybe helped by a fund or something financially oriented to help projects. And certainly for us,
Sophie, I'm gonna have to cut you off because I need to get around a couple of the others.
The last
Paulo, what did you get out of Key this morning?
I think it was a very good morning, and my feelings are very, very good, because I think we are all aligned in the principles, in the main issues, and we all know the importance to decide and to make it happen immediately to achieve the goals of 2030 and 2050. I think the bad feeling that I have from the morning is that somehow maybe we still don't know how to transfer quickly this huge amount of money in municipal programs to achieve the buildings. So I think this will be a huge effort for all of us, for all the associations, for all the people that can make this transformation, to find ways to make it happen, because at the end of the day, we all work for a long time on these issues. And at the end of a conference, most of the conference, we were having a drink, just saying why we are so many years talking about these issues. Everyone agrees and nothing happens at the end with volume, with impact. And so right now we have the money, we have the agreement of the politics, and we must really invent the vehicles that will drive the money until putting the green on the building. So let's hope. Yeah.
Okay, so it was interesting that, because I have a little saying. Before 2008, I used to look up in the sky and see a crane and go like, I wish there was a green roof in London. Since 2008, I see a crane and I know there's going to be a green roof. So the point of today is, whatever happens today, in 5 years' time, things might be happening wherever you are in Europe. I have to be Mr. Positive. I just want to highlight to listeners that the European Federation is actually involved in several European projects. The Meta building is one of the most interesting, and it connects to somebody talking about the complexity of the construction industry. And Meta building is designed to address that. I think I've got 1 minute, so I'm going to quickly tell you about World Green Roof Day, because all my European Federation members, my association members, hopefully will be making their video, which will be posted on June the 6th. I will be posting lots of videos between now and June the 6th. I have a very silly one coming up of Mexico tomorrow. And, that's about, for me, as the president of the Federation, and for all my national association, I see Uwe from Optigrun's there, is, Europe leads the world as an industry. And, we've got a lot to celebrate in Europe. And there are markets which aren't as big as some other markets, but we can celebrate what we're doing, and we can hope that the Commission and its work can help make cities greener in Europe. Thank you very much.